Hello, welcome to the Sutliffian Report. Today we have two big topics we're going to discuss, which is the adhan in the Sharia, and then we're also going to talk. We're going to talk with Len Getz on the Philly teen jihadi that was caught this week. Wait till you hear those questions. Len is a friend, and I have to say his book Innocent Spouse was phenomenal. I've tried dabbling in fiction and I can't get the details in that he does. It's just his book is impressive. So if you'll be hearing that later on in the show. I'm waiting for the panel to join us. God bless everybody who is here. And if you want to join the panel, scroll up to the top and you will find a link. In the case if you're on the Sutliffian Report or on Straight Way of Grace, you can look at the pinned item on the top and you can come join. Hi, Larry. Thank you. Okay, so here we go. I just want to start. I always start with scripture. So today we're reading 1 Kings 2:13 to 27. And someone just joined, so let me get them in before I start reading. All right. Hello. Thank you for joining. All right. So here's the scripture for today again. It is 1 Kings chapter 2, verses 13 to 27. Now Adonijah, the son of Haggith, came to Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon. So she said, "Do you come peaceably?" The reason she asked this is Adonijah has he has basically committed a crime, which is treason. He has tried to usurp the throne, and this was done in the hopes that he would be the new king. Well, bad news for Adonijah. That was not what God wanted, and if you listen to his words, you'll be surprised. That's why Solomon's mom, Bathsheba, asked this question. Moreover, he said, "I have something to say to you." And she said, "Say it." Then he said, "You know that the kingdom was mine, and all Israel had set their expectations on me that I should reign. However, the kingdom has been turned over and has become my brother's, for it was his from the Lord." So he's basically saying he was stealing it from Solomon, and he knew that it was a gift to his brother Solomon from the Lord. That's how it was supposed to be, but he was going to take it anyways. Well, think about that. "Now I ask one petition of you. Do not deny me." And she said to him, "Say it." Then he said, "Please speak to King Solomon, for he will not refuse you, that he may give me Abishag, the Shunammite, as wife." Now, this person that is being spoken of was basically the concubine that was picked for King David, who was a virgin, to keep him warm. So think about what he's asking for here. So Bathsheba said, "Very well, I will speak for you to the king." Bathsheba therefore went to King Solomon to speak to him for Adonijah. And the king rose up to meet her and bowed down to her and sat down on his throne and had a throne set for the king's mother. So she sat at his right hand. Then she said, "I desire one small petition of you. Do not refuse me." And the king said to her, "Ask it, my mother, for I will not refuse you." So she said, "Let Abishag, the Shunammite, be given to Adonijah, your brother, as wife." And King Solomon answered and said to his mother, "Now, why do you ask Abishag, the Shunammite, for Adonijah? Ask for him the kingdom also, for he is my older brother. For him and for Abiathar the priest and Joab the son of Zeruiah. King Solomon swore by the Lord, saying, "May God do so to me and more also, if Adonijah has not spoken this word against his own life. Now therefore, as the Lord lives, who has confirmed me and set me on the throne of David my father, who has established a house for me, as he promised, Adonijah shall be put to death today." So King Solomon sent by the hand of Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and he struck him down, and he died. And to Abiathar the priest, the king said, "Go to Anathoth, to your own fields. for you are deserving of death. But I will not put you to death this time, because you have carried the ark of the Lord God before my father David, because you were afflicted every time my father was afflicted. So Solomon removed Abiathar from the being priest of the Lord, that he might fulfill the word of the Lord which he spoke concerning the house of Eli at Shiloh. Adonijah guaranteed his own death by seeking the mourning virgin consort of his own father as his bride. Adonijah, in doing this, openly admitted he was usurping the throne, and that Solomon was God's chosen leader for the people of Israel. Knowing this, he still cannot contain his. This is the thing to think about. This would-be king, who had selfish desires, couldn't even contain his own lustful desires, that he dared ask a man that God put on the throne to give him his lusts, to give into his lust. And like, what did he think would happen? Is my question. He seals his own fate by doing this. It's like, you have to sit there and wonder about some people. Next, King Solomon removes the treasonous priest, Abiathar, who, like his father, sought to please men. And I say like his father because we're talking about this going back. This would be one of the children of Eli's children. And yeah, they would rather please men than God. So think about that. So we now have, Solomon's putting in place another person who will stand up for God. Hi, Len. Thanks for joining.
Hey, Paul. How are you?
Hey, pretty good.
Hello. God bless you.
Let's start. Yeah, let's get let's pray real quick, and then we'll get started. Dear Lord Jesus, we thank you. Oh, I'm going to ask you to mute yourself there. Okay, I'm going to do that. All right. Dear Lord Jesus, thank you for being there for us, Lord, and taking us through so many things so you can make us into better people. You do incredible things. We just ask, Lord, that you would continue to mold us into the people you want us to be. In your name, Lord Jesus, amen. You might need a headset, Len, or because we can hear you. That's why I muted you. Sorry. The joy of what I'm going to do here is I'm going to present. Put my screen up here on this topic now. Let me just get okay, here we go. And I have.
Paul, are you saying
Yes.
that a guy that wanted to be a king, enjoying his own lusts, was rebuked by God?
Oh, absolutely.
He wasn't Muhammad, I believe.
It does sound like a. I mean, I think it's hilarious that this would-be king starts out with lust. And for those people wondering why I have this shirt on today, I gave platelets today. I do believe in giving blood and helping others. I give platelets because I've had many friends die of cancer, and I try to give about once a month. And if you're just wondering why I'm making a big show of this, I think people need to give when they can. Not everybody has the guts to do it. For me, it takes 2 hours because you have to sit there and wait. But I look at it as another way you can give back. All right, so let's get into Sharia today. Today's big question everybody needs to listen to is Sharia here telling us that it is man-made? Because there's nothing in this section that comes from the Quran or the Sunnah. Nothing. So doesn't that pretty much say it's man-made law? For all those Muslims who are listening, we're going to read it. I have translations, and you'll see what I mean. And this is just some incredible stuff. Len, when you're ready, you can unmute yourself when you're ready, okay? And you're free to comment whenever. Okay. F 3.0 says the call to prayer, which is the adhan, and the call to commence the iqama. Now, Christ is salvation. Would you like to read F 3.1? Are you able to see it?
Yeah, of course I can.
Okay.
The call to prayer, adhan, and call to commence, iqama, are two sunnahs for the prescribed prayers, even when praying alone or in the second group to pray, in a mosque, for example, such that there is public cognizance of
Yes.
both the call to prayer and to commence, whether in a large or small town.
Now, this is really interesting because in prisons, the Muslims are claiming they have to be allowed to pray together in large groups. But you notice here it says when praying alone. So
Yeah.
you don't need to pray in large groups, is what I'm saying. This is about the call to prayer. The guy who's going to be calling everybody. You can pray
But
alone.
Paul, we knew
Yeah.
that for a very long time that they could pray alone, even in their houses.
Yes.
We knew that, like for years now, for decades.
And in, I don't know about, I mean, this is in this country, there are groups like CARE are now insisting that that information's all wrong, that they have to pray together. It's like, so here it is.
No. I mean, when we were encountering Muslims, old Muslims, like in 1990s and 2000s,
Yes.
they were just telling us that they could go in a room and pray there, and that's it. I mean, I've seen a lot of Muslims myself that they would go in a room and pray by themselves. They didn't go to a mosque or something like that.
Oh, I saw that too. And what kills me is they're now suing and winning in court to do this. Now it's the judges who are highly misinformed, and I blame the majority of this on, again, going as far back as colleges. Yep. So Len, you probably want to go to your settings and adjust the speakers to your headset.
Let's see. When do I do that?
Down the bottom it says settings.
Bottom it says settings. Oh yeah, okay, settings.
And you
One,
go to
two.
settings, you pick audio,
Audio, okay.
and you'll find let's see, speaker.
Speaker, okay. Click on speaker.
You should adjust.
Headphones.
Yep. And then,
Okay,
you should be able to hear me. I should be able to hear me on yours.
Well, I still don't hear you.
I'm still hearing the echo.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to mute you for a little bit. Okay, if you're able to fix that, let me. Oh, you can unmute yourself, okay?
Okay.
All right. So here we go. Call to prayer. This is what I find interesting with this. Like I said, that one part. But here is the other thing about it, which I didn't underline. So I wanted to see Christ of salvation. Do you see another thing that's interesting there, which I didn't underline?
Okay, I hear you through my speakers, through my headphones.
Yay!
Yeah, you're fine.
Yes, thank you.
You're fine.
Thank you.
And you can hear me too,
So
right?
Len,
Okay,
yes,
good.
great.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Christ of
Anyone want-
salvation and Len, do you see something on the screen that's not underlined in that F3.1 that is kind of interesting?
F3.1, that brings closer here.
The two sunnahs that it says, I don't know where it is.
You know what it is I'm looking at? It
Tell
says
me.
such that there is public cognizance.
What exactly is public cognizance? I don't know.
Okay. So actually in the translation, the accurate translation, I had Usama go through it, and it doesn't say public cognizance. It says that the local will appear. So this is what they're trying to say. A politician will basically, it's a display of power. That's what it's about.
Ooh.
It's all about a display of power.
Ah.
Now, Paul.
Like, yes,
I was at the LA Fitness a while ago. You familiar with LA Fitness? Where you exercise. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Loud and clear.
Okay, so all right, good. So I went to in the locker room, and there's a section in the locker room that has a TV in front of it, but the section in the locker room and about 5 or 6 or 7 or so, I don't know, a whole bunch of Muslims were praying in the locker room. Like, I don't know, they just praying. I think they were all praying in the locker room. And I asked myself, are they allowed to do this? Number one. Number two, why are they doing this? Why are they doing it? And number three, this is public space. They're turning public space into private space. And why is LA Fitness allowing them to do that? So as you can say, it's a show to political power. It's not just political power. It's they want to take over civil power. It's taking away your freedom to move. If I want to go in there and watch TV, let's say, if there's a TV on, well, I can't because it's a public area for public watching TV, because there's a TV in there. I don't know why, but there is. But you can't do that when they're praying.
Yes, and you're right. It's both, and that's what
it's a subtle bullying.
Is.
It's a subtle bullying. That's what it is.
Bullying,
exactly.
Bullying. That's what bullies do. That's what bullies do. It's my territory, so you gotta get out of here.
That's right. And of course, if you object to it, then you're Islamophobic.
Yeah, very.
And this is where I again, they said, this is a funny thing up here in the beginning, and I said this before we started. They said that call to commence, the adhan and the iqama are two sunnahs. There's nothing in the sunnah about this. Nothing. That's where I think it's funny. If you read the Islamic histories, though, this is what also becomes funny. They say the Ridda Wars were about keeping Islam together. Not true. All of the places they went, these people were willing to pray according to Al-Tabari. All right, they got up, they went to prayer. And what they didn't do, they didn't give them money. That's why they were killing them. So again, this is quite a statement. I'm going to read F3.2. To give the prayer, the adhan, is better than being. This had Usama laughing, and let's see if you guys can figure out what's funny. To give the call to prayer, adhan, is better than being the imam for a group prayer. Now, there's a comment here. Although being imam is superior to giving the call to commence. Iqama. Wait a minute.
What?
What's
funny about this? How does it even make sense?
Yes, that's why. Why is this? So is there a contradiction here?
Well, of course it is a contradiction.
Yeah,
they're both.
It's one thing, or I mean, it's just. And this is a comment, like, okay, so they're saying the person. I mean, this is the insanity of this. The imam is supposed to be the superior. All right, the person who calls prayer is supposed to be underneath.
The leader of the congregation.
Yeah. Yes, and the person who gives the adhan is usually the imam, but you can have somebody do that as well. Hopefully, not like the place in the Masjid of Akron, where the man who leads the Masjid of Akron, the imam, doesn't know Arabic and then tells people, if you don't know Arabic, you can't know the Quran, and he doesn't know Arabic himself.
What is the difference between the call to prayer and the call to commence? Isn't it the same thing? When you call to prayer,
we're going to get into that.
The same as calling to commence. I mean, I don't know.
The call to commence, it gets defined as we go on. So you're going to see. So the call to prayer is the initial call. And this is a good question. The call to prayer is the initial call to prayer, and that's what we're talking about now. The iqama is the call to commence the second prayer. So if you have to make up prayers, that's the call to commence. You can start then in the second group. That's the second group that's for. So again, it's. Like they're really going to call someone to do a different. I mean, you're either.
I really still don't get it. Paul, I really don't still do it. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
It's the same person.
I'm stupid.
It's the same. Way. No, you're making sense. It's the same person, so it's really amazing. It's usually one person does all three, especially with small mosques, but this is just kind of ridiculous. So, all right, I'm going to go on. F3.3. Len, do you want to read that one?
When praying alone in a mosque where a group has already prayed, one does not raise one's voice in giving the call to prayer, though if no group has yet prayed, one raises it. The same applies to a second group to pray. They do not raise their voice.
What?
Now, this is humorous again. Praying alone in a mosque.
How does it even make sense, Paul?
Yes, yeah. So here's, I mean, I had a lot of questions when I was reading this and talking to Usama. Okay, when you do the adhan, you're calling out, and they're now putting it out on a loudspeaker, so everybody in the area around can hear this. So wait a minute, don't raise your voice when giving the call to prayer. But that isn't that contradicting the whole purpose of the call to prayer? It doesn't.
How is someone going to call for prayer without raising their voice? I mean, how is that?
Exactly.
How is that even possible?
This is exactly it, and this is where, I mean, these are man-made laws that really make no sense. Like I said, this is proof. These are man-made laws. They don't even, they're not even consistent. They contradict what their very purpose is. So this is the silliness of it. I mean, this is where I say most Muslims haven't read Sharia, but they know Sharia.
They only know it by name. They only know it by name.
Yes,
they don't know a lot.
They think
the
they
laws.
do. I mean, anybody who's read the stuff we've read about the humor of farting, that Allah is afraid, Allah hates farts, or he just finds them disgusting, or yeah. All right. Christ is Lord. Can you read F3.4?
It is sunnah for a group of women who are praying together to give the call to commence without giving the call to prayer. What the heck?
So what's the difference between commence?
So this is what that means. I'm gonna put this up. So I asked. I thought I knew what it meant, and I was right. So I checked with Usama. This is specifically written so a woman cannot do the adhan. They can't give the call to prayer. And basically he was telling me that you have to understand that in Islam, the voice of the female is like her private part. She's not supposed to talk. She should never talk. Yeah. That's what it basically is saying.
I will ask my wife not to stop talking then.
I mean, I'm like,
really?
wait a minute. Yeah, I was like, that's how they respect. I mean, that's what, again, they have very little respect for females. And now you're starting to catch why.
Well, Paul, I knew they didn't have a lot of respect for women, but that's beyond the imagination of not having respect. I mean, the voice of the female is like her private part. What?
Yeah, they want you silent. Yeah, they want you silent and compliant. And understand that when a woman is silent, that is consent. So this is what they're also saying. She needs to be silent. She can't give this. She can't take part in this. So
what if her private parts will release air? You know, like fart. That's private part as well, isn't it?
Well, let's just say that she probably gets lots of bad breath that way. Okay, I'll read the next one. When making this is the stuff I say about this little god when making up one or more missed prescribed prayers, one gives the call to prayer only for the first. Now this is the difference. The call to prayer is the adhan, but the call to commence is for each of the following ones. Okay. Here I'm saying this is where I saw the difference. So you got the call to prayer, the adhan, and the call to commence comes after the first set of prayers. Okay. So this is why it's like, if you have to make up prayers and you have to make them up in order, which I can't figure out how that works out.
Please make it sensible to me. I'm stupid. Please make it sensible to me. I don't understand.
So last week we read about making up prayers, and they say you have to make them up in the exact order that you missed them. So if I missed, let's see, the evening prayer, I have to now, and at this time, do the evening prayer that I messed up, if that's what I missed. But if I missed like the evening prayer, the morning prayer, I missed so many, I'd have to make them up in the exact order I did.
Well,
Like I'm
if
really gonna
someone
remember.
misses like 3-4 days of prayer, what are they going to do? They were
You have
sick
to
for
go and
3-4
make them
days.
all
What?
up. That
What?
means you have to make them up, or you have to be careful because you can get executed for missing them too. So
What?
yeah, yes, yeah, we
Mr.
covered
Len,
that.
I don't know you, Mr. or Dr. Len Getz. What do you make of it, sir? Please explain to me. Because Mr. Paul there cannot explain it to me. I don't know.
I can pull that up. I had this up last week, so let me pull that one up.
I'm really lost here.
All right, let me pull up last week's. And just a second, I'm going to close out the screen for a second and show you what I'm talking about. All right.
Okay.
So let me pull this up. Last week we covered the missed prayers. Maybe I should do a little bit of review of that. I thought that was kind of bizarre. And I only did. Okay. Okay, just a second.
That actually sounds to me very, not strict, but have laws for prayer. Like, can't people just go and pray by themselves? Why do someone have to make it a law? I mean, what's the reason?
This is where it gets insane.
Well, I've also seen people pray in subways. They're praying by themselves because it's the time to pray. So they sit down, they stop what they're doing, and they pray in the middle of the subway.
Well, they do it in a disruptive manner in general. They'll pick a spot where they're blocking track. I've seen a video this week where somebody got in the middle of the road, blocked a whole lane of traffic, and started his prayer there. And the rest of the world is going on around them. Like, they get wherever they can. I'm not saying they all do this, but it says something.
I would kick him up his buttocks, though.
So
go to your room and pray there. Why doesn't he go to
you're
his
thinking
room
the
and pray
same way
there?
I am. All right.
And why do you have to make it a show that you are the how to say it, the Pharisee of this land? I mean,
Pharisee is correct.
God,
yeah.
Look, God, I'm praying to you. Look, how good person I am. I mean, really, man.
Yeah, and with the case of the LA Fitness that I just spoke to you about, they didn't all have to show up there. They could have gone to a mosque. They decided we're going to go at 5 o'clock. We're going to do the fitness, and then we're going to pray all together. They didn't have to do that.
So I'm going to go back to F2.8 so you can understand where I'm getting this from. It says it is recommended that missed prayers be made up in the order they were missed. Mm-hmm. So this is where they start differentiating. The call to prayer is the initial call, and the call to commence, which is like for the second group, third group, if there's other groups, and for making up prayers. And this is just, when I started looking at this, I mean, how do you, I mean, if you can't, let's say you can't go to, say you missed a morning prayer, you can't, that would mean to me I'd have to start making up the prayers. I can't make up 3 prayers. I could probably make them all up in one sitting or whatever, one time. It might take longer, but you can't make them up. It's just, to me, it's bizarre. I mean, the concept that you have to make up prayers. It's a very little God.
Lose a couple of days of prayer, because they say it's five prayers a day, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So I lose 2 days. It's 10 prayers. How am I gonna remember what prayers they are?
You're on the same question I was asking. Now, I think if we go back just a hair, is it? Okay, right here, and we did this a couple weeks ago. A Muslim who holds the prayer to be obligatory, but through lack of concern neglects to perform it until its proper time is over, has not committed unbelief. Rather, he is executed, washed, prayed over, and buried. So this is where you have to be very careful. If you miss your prayer and you're doing it through neglect, you understand it's obligatory.
Wait a minute, Paul. Wait a minute. I lose a couple of days prayer, I get executed. How am I gonna fix that then? If I'm dead,
You can't. That's the point.
Then why do they
But
need F2.8 then?
you're asking the right question. Well, if they did knock you off, they expect you to make it up. I sat there trying to,
If they're going to execute
so
the
here's
person,
the funny thing about this.
if they're
If
going
you
to
read
execute the
F1
person, they don't need F28.
Yeah. So here's the funny thing: neglect. All right, that was their statement. If it's neglect, they did it. So, but if you go to check on them and they're asleep, okay, then you don't have to kill them.
That's okay.
If they just forgot it, you don't have to kill them. If someone's delaying it because they're on, they're going to combine a couple prayers together because they're on a journey, you don't have to kill them. So there's all these. This is what Usama's been trying to teach me is Allah is the God of accept as well.
Wait.
I
So
mean,
if I fell
the God of
asleep,
accept.
if I fell asleep or I forgot it, so I don't get killed. That's why they want
Yes.
F2.8.
You
Right.
pretend to be
Everybody
asleep when
can
they
find
come
an
check on
excuse
you.
like that. Everybody
Yes.
can find that excuse. I fell asleep. Sorry, I forgot about it. I forgot. Oh my goodness, I forgot it. Or
So
it was traffic. There was a traffic jam. Too many camels on the road. I couldn't come.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it says a lack of concern. So I guess if you're sleeping, you're not. That's not a show of lack of concern. You just fell asleep. Not your fault. You fell asleep. So you're absolved.
But if they come find you and you're just purposely neglecting, well, I don't want to go.
Right.
Bam!
Or I'm watching TV instead.
Yeah. Oh boy, I wouldn't want to be caught watching TV. Well, somebody rats you out. Oh boy. Yeah. Scary. And this is the laws that all Muslims believe is for the entire world. And, think about that. This is, there again, people have to understand that the people who suffer the most from Islam are those who are submitters to Islam, which is what Muslim means. So Muslims are the ones who suffer the most. It's not us Christians, even though they're killing us. It's not the Jews, even though they're killing the Jews. It is the Muslims themselves that suffer most from Islam. And this is the scary thought. Now, if you're wondering where this comes from, it comes from Reliance the Traveler. I say pick that book up. It is Traveler spelled Traveell. That's 2 L's, E-R. I think I've got my copy. I've got another book here I'm going to share with you in a minute. I have a copy in PDF form. But I'm going to get out of this one for a second, and I'm going to go back here. Okay. This is where we were. All right. So now you understand what I was saying. This is what I'm talking about, where we're at 3.5. We're talking about making up prayers. This stuff, there was a lot of rules on this. Like, can you really remember? I mean, I remember I made to make up 3 days. And are you thinking, okay, 3 or 4 days, 5 days, 6 days? Do I really count in my head? And so that was another question I had for Usama about this. And here's what he said. As I was laughing last week, and I said, look, we got to be thankful that Allah's the one counting the prayers. He says, no, Paul, you got it wrong. See, I was thinking if Allah's counting, he can't add. So I've got it made. Allah can't do math correctly. That's evident in the Quran over and over again.
He cannot do what? He cannot add?
He can't. He doesn't do math well. He can't add fractions. I mean, that's evident over and over again.
That's true.
Here's the funny thing about this. If what Usama says, no, you got to remember, Paul, the ones who are recording things are that you have a good angel type thing, and you have one who records all the good things you do, and you have another one there recording all the sins you do. So the one who records all the sins, like missing prayer, he's the one who's giving the list to that you have to. He's the one recording all that stuff. So now the angels are. Here I'm going. The angels are better at math than Allah. So,
I bet they are worse than him.
Yeah. Yeah, it made me laugh when I was thinking about it. So they made the angels more responsible, even though the prayers are not to the angels; they are to this thing called Allah. All right, let's go on. And all right, so F3.6 if this is too small to see for some people, this is as big as I can make it on my screen. I can do it one more time. I'm going to go one more size up. Just a second here. Here we go. That better for everybody?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. The words of the call to prayer and call to commence are well known. Now let's hear what they said. They're well known. Then we enter into a note, which to me is humorous. Okay. It's a note. It's not the Sunnah. It's not the Hadiths. It's not the Quran. It's a note. So this was added to Sharia. Here we go.
Ooh.
The words of the call to prayer mean Allah is greatest, Allah is greatest, Allah is greatest, Allah is greatest. Sounds like they repeat themselves pretty good. Okay.
Why
Then
are
they
you
say,
saying that?
I testify there is no God but Allah. I testify there is no God but Allah. And they say this 3 times. And the Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. And then they say that they repeat this again. Come to the prayer, come to the prayer, come to success, come to success. So again, you have another note here. At this point, before the dawn prayer, one adds, prayer is better than sleep. Prayer is better than sleep. Okay, we're gonna talk about this in a minute. I'm laughing about that one, and I have a particular statement about it. But they say Allah is greatest. Allah is greatest. There's no God but Allah. All right. The words of the call to commence mean Allah is greatest. Okay, they're kind of, one is the adhan, again, and again, they're talking about the call to prayer and the call to commence. Again, they're not quoting the Quran, they're not quoting the Hadiths. Notice there's no citation here for that. And those notes, that whole section, that whole paragraph above, and all the way down to the bottom here, these 2 paragraphs are nowhere in Sharia. It actually starts with the words to the call to prayer and call to commence are known. That's the end of it. These are all notes that were added. So think about that.
So how do they know?
Yes, they're just well known.
It
So
could be.
I had some
It could be
questions.
just like just come to the prayer. That's it.
Yeah. So here's where I find this interesting. I was talking to, I want to make sure, because this, as much as I can listen to things and listen to people talk, I want to trust, ask someone who is a lot more of authority than I am to get better information. So Usama has a big problem with their word testimony. And he's right. It says bear witness, not testify. And you can't give, this is the problem with their usage of the word testimony or bear witness. According to Sharia, you can't bear witness to or testify to things that you haven't tasted, you haven't touched, you haven't seen. Oh, you hear what I'm saying? Can you bear witness that Muhammad is a prophet when you haven't touched, seen,
The
heard
shahada by
anything?
itself, then it's a prohibition from
Yes,
Sharia.
yes, it is. It makes you a liar. It makes you bear false witness.
Yes.
So then it gets worse. So this whole point that they have just committed, in many ways, shirk, because they equate Muhammad with Allah, pretty much in that first pillar. But let's keep going. This is the part that's not
Paul,
consistent.
Paul, I will
Yes.
have to go drive now to get my wife home.
Okay.
I will be back in
All right.
35 minutes if you will
Okay,
be
thank you.
slow. Okay.
All right.
If not, God
Okay.
bless you. I will see
God
the
bless.
rest of it. God bless you.
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you for
Okay.
having me.
So, God bless. The next part, it says, this is for the Sunni, not the Shiite. So this is, understand, the Shiites add something to this. The Shiites add, Ali is the friend of Allah. Now, here's the part that makes me laugh. It says, prayer is better than sleep. Okay. Listen to this. The note said, at this point before the dawn prayer only, one adds, prayer is better than sleep. Wait, this starts at 5 a.m. And if your locality has allowed the call to prayer, this could start at 5 a.m. in your area. Oh, and I was like, well, he's like, wait a minute. This could start as early as midnight. What? Wow. I think that kind of blew my mind. He said it could start as early as midnight. I'm like, whoa,
Wow.
this is, yeah.
And don't they use like
I'm not,
a horn or a buzzer for the sound for the call to
think about a
prayer?
loudspeaker. This is a loudspeaker.
Loudspeakers, and
Yeah.
it's not just people, not just Muslims, but there are people who are non-Muslims who hear these call to prayers, or hear these speakers, and aren't they, isn't that disturbing the peace?
That's the
5 o'clock in the
stuff
morning.
that makes me, if you had a loudspeaker and you were doing this next to my place, I would consider an infringement on
Privacy.
my peace of mind to begin with, privacy, my right to my own religious beliefs. I mean, I would be filing so much paperwork on these people. But we have foolish, hateful people in this country who hate your freedoms, and they are enforcing this happening in, I don't know if there's one in Philadelphia that's doing this, but I've read about different areas in this country that are actually doing this, and in Canada.
Yeah, I haven't read about in Philadelphia yet. Not yet.
Good.
But there are sections in Philadelphia that are pretty much solely Muslim, so they may do it there, and maybe nobody complains because they're all listening to it, and they want it to happen, and maybe it's not as loud, maybe it doesn't go beyond their community. But there's areas in Germantown and South Philly, that's possible.
I don't know. In my small area, it's not happening yet. There are some. We'll get into it a little later on in Sharia. We'll get into more about property. But as I've said for the last few weeks, we're talking about Muslims cannot sell property to non-Muslims. So that's something you have to consider. Where he's talking about Muslim communities, I'm talking about it where I live, and these communities exist because Muslims cannot sell property. It's illegal for them to do this based on religion in this country, but they do this. And
you're in Rochester?
Important to understand. Yes, I'm in Rochester, New York. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I started to discover the community based on students that I'd had. I was really shocked that two students lived almost next door to each other. They came different years from different countries. They got their marching orders from the same place.
So you're talking about Muslim students?
Yes, and they got their marching orders from I believe it was McLean, Virginia.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The seat of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah.
All right.
Got it.
I'm going to turn a page here.
How many Muslims are in how many Muslims are in Rochester?
I don't have a count.
No, because in Philadelphia it's like 200,000.
We have a big NOI group, and we have a large Sunni community, and majority of them are connected to Muslim Brotherhood type connections. And the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is because the tie of the Muslim Brotherhood into a local college that I attended, and I went for my master's. All right, F3.7. Each word, I'm skipping this note, must be recited in the order mentioned above. Each word. So you think about that. They're talking about what the notes. They're talking about the notes. So there's another rule about the notes. Each word has to be recited in the order. Okay. If one remains silent for long or speaks at length between the words of the call to prayer or the call to commence, it is not valid and must be begun again. So your person who's the adhan or iqama can make mistakes and negate your prayer. Think about it. When giving the call to prayer or call to commence by oneself, the minimal audibility permissible here, the minimum, okay, is that one can hear oneself. The minimum when calling for a group is that all the contents can be heard by at least one other person. Really. So if you're with somebody else, you only have to be able to hear by at least one other person. So you don't need to hear the call to prayer broadcast. Again, here's what it says in the law. You can take this and say, hey, this is all crap when you're saying you have to be able to announce it to everybody. And this is they're lying through their teeth saying they have to do this. So again, this is their law. This is where I think it's important. This is why we have to know their law, and we have to ask these questions. All right. F3.8. It is not valid to give the call to prayer before a prayer's time has come, except for the dawn prayer. And it's permissible to give the call to prayer in the middle of the night onwards. So here I was saying earlier, they can give this call for the prayer in the morning at midnight, and they can give reminders throughout the night. Oh, no way. No way. I'm not that patient a person.
No.
I don't know how you would. This is why I say it's destructive to the sleeping patterns of any human being. So I was talking to Usama, and I got this. You should not do the call to prayer earlier than the time. This is why I had him double check this for me.
Yeah.
Earlier than the time. The only one earlier allowed is the dawn prayer. You can do it at midnight, and that was just like, wow. I mean,
dawn prayer. That's like 6 hours before dawn.
Yes.
Well, 5 hours before dawn.
I mean, can you imagine?
Well, the midnight prayer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I would think it would be called the midnight prayer, but
Yeah.
no, this is preparation for you coming when you wake up. Like, oh, no. I'm not that nice a person. I couldn't handle that one.
I guess then
All
if you
right,
do it, I guess if you do it at midnight, then you don't have to do it at dawn. Then you can sleep a little longer.
That's, I've thought about that. That makes sense. I think that they would probably still do the 5 a.m. call though, or whatever call. All right, the next one here is F3.9. When giving the call to prayer and call to commence, which again is that second group of prayers, it is recommended to have ablution, wudu, stand, face the direction of prayer, and to turn the head, not the chest or feet, to the right when saying come to the prayer, and to the left when saying come to success. It is offensive to give the call to prayer while in a state of minor ritual impurity. More offensive to do so in the state of major ritual impurity, janaba. Even worse to give the call to prayer commence while in either of these two states. Wait a minute. One is worse than the other, but it's worse to be, and that doesn't make any sense. This is it doesn't make any sense. So
what do they mean by minor ritual impurity, major ritual impurity?
What they're saying is there's no major and there's no minor. That's the humor. That is written for us English people.
Oh.
There is no. It's just impure. All right.
Okay.
They are not. That's for us English people. They're not telling us the truth. They use two words here, but that's really all it is. Now, the humor here is that should someone fart, they have just negated the prayer. So if the adhan farts, that makes Allah upset. You have to go back and do the wudu and start all over from scratch.
So that makes you impure. I was about to ask, what is impurity? What is the state of impurity?
Things like breaking wind. You can have a big fart, a little fart, and then you have to ask yourself if your fart smelled. You have to ask if it.
All right. Okay.
If it made a noise. You have to ask these questions. This is a whole part of the process. So he's like, "Whoa, yeah,
wow,
okay." Like, yeah, it's yeah. Allah doesn't like farts. That's what it comes down to. This is the other thing I find interesting: to give the call to prayer from a high place near the mosque. Wait a minute. They told us a little while ago the only one who had to hear the call to prayer was you or one other. Now they're giving the call to prayer. They're contradicting the previous verses by saying you should give it from a high place so everybody can hear it. Okay. It says it's recommended, but they've already said it's not necessary. So this is another thing that just keeps going. All right. Oh, let's see. PBS. XYZ, and I'm going to have to go pull that up for later. Thank you. XYZ, I'm going to pull that up later. I'm going to star that. Thank you. I'm going to star that, and I'll pull it up, and as soon as we finish here. All right. Thank you very much. XYZ is one of our great helpers and monitors in the
Oh.
room, helps,
Mhm.
does an awful lot of help. And this is it. He's actually pointing out that Minneapolis became the first major city to broadcast the Islamic call to prayer 5 times. Now, Minneapolis has a huge amount of Muslims. I think they're at 10 or 15%. And they think that's enough, someplace in there, to force the rest of Minneapolis to listen to it.
10 or 50% of the population are Muslims
Yes,
in Minneapolis? Wow.
Yeah, that's what it's someplace in there. They can force, think about that, they can force 85% of the people to obey them. Something's wrong in that setting. Minorities should not have strength of the majority. That's part of it.
That's what it is these days. Minorities rule. Yeah.
Yeah, and this
like wokeism. There's very small small portion of the population are into wokeism, but nevertheless, they seem to have the most influence among all manners of society and all aspects of society.
You know what? I'll just throw this over here for a minute. All right, I'm just going to throw this over here because I do want to point out how important that is, what he's talking about. And if you pay real close attention, I'm having a good laugh here because what do these colors represent? I know
rainbow.
They're in a Muslim area, but they have the rainbow here. This is probably saying they are in a not a Muslim controlled area, but probably a very liberal church.
Well, maybe CARE. Mary CARE. CARE is big on rainbow. By the way, am I supposed to see you now? I don't see you now.
No, I just covered it up. So yeah, I have the full screen used right now.
Okay.
But this is, again, think about this. This is being done 5 times a day. Would you be okay being woken up by this? Yeah, broadcast. And this is from let's see, is it this year, 2023, April 2023? Yep.
Too small.
So that's this year. Wow.
What do they mean by person. What do they mean by to broadcast? Broadcast to how far? Broadcast to whom? Broadcast to the entire city? Broadcast to
First major allowed the announcement of the adhan to be heard over speakers 5 times a day, year round. So these are speakers outside the mosque they're talking about.
Outside their mosque. Okay. So anybody in the area could hear it. In that vicinity can hear it.
And this is Jalani Hussein, executive director of Minnesota chapter of CARE. CARE, which is a Muslim America people. Yeah, they're the ones standing behind this, and that should be making everybody think. All right, I'm going to go back to this, and this is why we're doing this. We're going through this, and it's extremely, extremely important to understand what we're doing here. We're going through this slowly because, I mean, I could rush through this, and I think we missed something and we don't ask enough questions as we're going through if we don't look at things like that. Thank you again. Yeah, and Andrew Martin's right. Yes, there was a Muslim city that banned pride in the United States, the gay pride. That was Hamtramck, Michigan. They banned the gay. Yeah, so. Yeah, and Muslims, homosexuals, if you think supporting Islam is good for you, please do not stand in the area around a mosque saying those things, because if there's a high place in the mosque, they could probably take you and throw you down from that, or worse, take care of business. They would consider your existence an abomination to their way of life, and if they want to follow Sharia, which they consider Allah's law, I just would not want to be close by if that's what they're going to do. So the reason I'm pulling this up, going through this, again, is so we can ask questions. But remember, Muslims are not allowed to ask questions. So this is another point here. It says, okay, it is recommended. Remember, this is recommended to give the call to prayer from a high place. Now, to put one's fingertips in one's ears while calling the prayer. Now, again, I talked to Osama about this because I wanted to make sure I have a better take on this. And he says, that's not true. And I was like, what do you mean? So here's the translation and his explanation. In In Egypt, they pull their ears forward to hear themselves better, so they can hear. In Islam, it's this part of the prayer is all about the adhan, is all about hearing yourself. You want to hear yourself speak, and this is why they will do that. So you don't see them put their fingertips in one's ears, and this is, he's like, wait, that's not right. Okay. So think about that. Again, the purpose to hear themselves. Prayer, this, again, nothing here that we have read in this whole section has any citation from the Quran or the Hadiths or the Sirahs. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Number 3, to take one's time in giving the call to prayer. Again, they have comments. You want to, the comments and the A and the O, these are scholarly statements. These are additions to what's actually stated. To take one's time in giving the call to prayer. That's it. That's all it really says. And to give the call to commence rapidly without pause. Again, this is what it says. It's not necessarily, this is where I think this is important to understand. It's different than what we see. F3.10. Now, this one starts out, it's obligatory for the person who's giving the adhan, which is the mazin. I don't think I pronounce it correctly. Mazin. A person who's giving the call to commence. To be, now listen closely. This is what the English says. To be Muslim. Okay, that makes sense. To have reached the age of discrimination. Now, we learned that's basically if you're toilet trained. Okay. To be sane. And if calling for a men's group of prayer, to be male. All right. So age of discrimination is toilet trained, and I think they wanted you to. That's when your age of discrimination begins. All right. To be sane. Well, that kind of makes sense. Okay. You don't want to. If calling for men's group prayer, which is they're all, then that person has to be male. Remember, the female is considered taboo. You can't let her call a prayer. If she's only calling women to prayer. Okay, the women can hear her voice, but no men can. That's why you won't hear the woman ever doing that. Okay. Then it says it is recommended that he be upright and have a strong, pleasant voice. It's offensive for a blind person to give the call to prayer unless a sighted person is with him to tell him what time is coming.
Why are they saying that? Why is it you don't have to see to give a call to prayer? So why would this discriminatory against the disabled?
They're looking at this being written at the time period is the blind person has to be told when to pray because he can't look at the time and figure it out on his own.
Okay.
And I think that's their reasoning, and they're very offended by people who have what could be known as disabilities. All right, so here's the real truth. And in translation, the first thing that is said is he must be free. Did you see that any place over there? So we're saying not a slave. He can't be a slave. All right, this is a problem we're going to get into in a minute. He must be of good reputation. It said that towards the bottom where it said it is recommended that he be upright. All right. He must be Muslim. Okay, got that. And be understanding. Be male. Have a good voice. So all these things are on the left there. All right. And here it said it is offensive for a blind person. In the translation, it says it is hated to be given by a blind man.
Hated.
Wow. Yeah. Very, very powerful. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Again, the Sharia says one thing. This is a time where it contradicts the Hadiths. Because the truth is, if you read the Hadiths, Muhammad's person who gave the call to prayer, Bilal, all right, that's his slave. Well, he was a Muhammad's slave. And he died as a slave. And he was a black slave. So, Sharia contradicts, and again, we've said Sharia abrogates Hadith, Sharia abrogates the Quran, so they've corrected Muhammad again. And here we were at another place where Sharia fixes Muhammad's sayings. his words, his actions.
Yeah.
Wow. And that
Okay.
kind of, these little things get me. I think we're about done. I just want to double check. We have one more. Yeah, okay. When one hears the call to prayer, it is recommended to repeat each prayer after the Mazain, even if in a state of major ritual impurity during menstruation. Okay. Again, women are not going to be giving the call to prayer. So when reciting the Quran and or reciting something else, one does not repeat the phrases "come to the prayer, come to success," but rather says after them, "There is no power or strength except through Allah." And the call to prayer at dawn, one does not repeat, "Prayer is better than sleep," but instead says, "You have spoken the truth and piously." When the person giving the call to commence says the prayer is commencing, one replies, "May Allah establish it and make it endure as long as the heavens and earth, and make me one of the righteous of its folk." This is, if you pay attention here, this is also a statement about jihad. So be very careful when you think about this. If one hears it, this is the part I've started laughing at. If you hear the call to prayer while you're making love, or going to the bathroom, or performing a prayer, you say this when you're done. Wait a minute. So you're not going to... Really, did they have to put in the law? So what? You're having sex, you don't have to... Whoa! Unnecessary. TMI, too much information, as we say here in the States. That's overload. I didn't need to hear that. All right, and I think this... Yeah, okay. All right, F3.12, it's recommended the Mazain after he finishes and those hearing him bless the Prophet. And then one adds, I'm skipping the notes, okay? Then one adds, "O Allah, Lord of the comprehensive invitation and enduring prayer." These big words, all of the big words you see in Sharia, they are made up.
Yeah, made up, okay.
And they are to make Sharia look pretty and intelligent. It doesn't work. And I didn't ask Usama to translate this one, so I didn't go back and get that. But again, they're just giving an invitation. I'm not looking for anything else there. This is the part that got me. I went back. I have this book. I have right here a book called Fiqh as-Sunnah. It's by Al-Said Sabiq. Now, in this book, on the section on prayer, it says this: "And for the prayer in Islam, a rank which has no equivalent for it in any other worship. It is the pillar of the religion which it exists with. The Messenger of Allah said, the head of the command is the Islam, which is submission, okay? And the pillar is the prayer." Pay close attention here. "And the utmost of its hump is the holy struggle," which is the word jihad, "in the way of Allah." Okay? There is no holy struggle. The word jihad is holy war. So they made that up. So they thought some English person might read it and not understand. Okay. So the exact translation, which I did ask Usama for: "The head of the command is Islam, and the prayer is its pillar, and the height of its hump," which means the top of the top, "is performing jihad for the sake of Allah." That's word for word what that actually said. So when they're praying, you think about this. They've included jihad as part of it. And this is something we, as the non-Muslims in the world, Christians, whatever, we need to pay attention to. This is what they're writing to each other. And this is the Arabic you can see down the bottom I had translated. It's kind of mind-numbing. And think about this. I'm sorry. I'm going back and laughing at Andrew Martin's comment. I'm sorry. But these are things to think about. Now, I asked, thank you for coming back, Christ is salvation. Thank you.
Thank you for having me again.
So this part, I mean, I was kind of mind numbed when I saw this, I read this, and I wanted to, I'm going to put it in next week when we start talking about this again. The fact that when Muslims write to themselves, they're putting on the same level jihad and prayer. That's important. We need to recognize that. Maybe that's the statement. When this is what they write to each other, we need to be saying, hey, You people who work for state departments, you people who work for intelligence, wake up. maybe you should be saying, let's bring them here. I don't know where here is. It could be.
I'll be back 1 minute. Okay.
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 All right. Well, when you come back, you're going live. All right. All right. So what's going to happen in a few minutes is I'm going to finish this up, and I'm going to have, and the next thing I have, I'm just going to go right. Okay. If you want to support my ministry, you can go to Amazon. I can purchase this book or other books I have out there. This is the book I recommend to everybody because it goes and addresses the social norms. Now, I say you can use this book if you are having problems with Muslims trying to force their way upon you, to force you to comply with something they're doing. If CARE is coming after you, this has the citations, the Quran citations to join, so you can go.
Okay.
So you can use it to go address. Now, Len is here because I have asked him here to address a problem that just happened in Philadelphia. So let me introduce him a little bit better. And I have to say thank you for joining us again, Len. I'm so happy to have you back, and thank you for coming early. So Len Getz here is a CPA. He's one of the few good men out there who understand this real issue that's going on. After retiring from the IRS, he worked for the Middle East Forum and published over 20 articles exposing the political movement of Islam in Philadelphia. He has just published his first novel, which I am saying it is a good read. It is a must read. If you like fiction, this is something you should read. And it's written in such a way that it's suspenseful to pretty much from the beginning all the way through. It will either have you on the edge of the seat, or you'll be, when you put the book down, you're going to be walking around trying to figure out what's happening next.
See it?
You don't I'll tell you, you don't expect the end. I mean, I did that kind of. I didn't think of that end, and this is where I think Len is a much better writer, far better writer than me in fiction. I can't come there. I've tried, I just can't do it. And by the way, this first novel exposes Islamism in Philadelphia. Now, here's the interesting part. Innocent Spouse is about an IRS agent finishing up his career working innocent spouse cases. When his manager taps him to audit the city's leading newspaper, the Philadelphia Times, the FBI is also looking over his shoulder, but won't say why. But before the audit begins, it's investigating journalists who had just published a piece in a rival newspaper about a controversial Muslim neighborhood is found brutally murdered. This novel, Innocent Spouse, is a finalist for the 2023 Killer Nashville Silver Falchion Award for Best Mystery.
Can I show the book? Can I show the novel? Is it look like?
Is novel the right word for this? I actually don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, yes, absolutely is. And it's been reviewed by Robert Spencer. He did a great review.
I saw that.
Yeah. And it says here on the front, an outstanding novel full of adventure, surprising plot twists and turns, a telling book, and an America that's rapidly changing. It's on the cover.
I think you read this, you're going to be forced to ask questions about what's happening in your community. That, to me, was the power behind it. I believe that was one of the reasons you wrote the book. If you are unaware of what's happening in your community, here's the danger in reading this book. You're going to want to know more. That's the danger in reading it. You're going to be a little bit more concerned because you're going to realize how real it is. Now, Len, this past week in Philadelphia, the FBI arrested a 17-year-old who was communicating with Al-Qaeda affiliated terrorists via the internet. And we talk about how life imitates art. I couldn't help but notice the similarities between the young man and the terrorist character in your novel. I don't want to reveal the story, so I'm not going to say which character. So, Len, please tell us a little more about this teenager and the charges he's now facing.
So, first of all, I thank you, Paul, for having me on the show again. It's always a pleasure to be here. I think you've had me several times over the last 3 or 4 years, and it's really very honored to be here. And you're not the only one to pick up this similarity of what happened yesterday or last week with the arrest of the 17-year-old and the character in my novel. People have asked me about it. People have read the book, come in and say, "Look, this looks exactly like your book," and it's just uncanny. The similarities are just uncanny. So, last Friday, the 17-year-old boy was arrested by the FBI because there were evidence that he was communicating with a terrorist organization. It's called the Kitabat al-Tawhid al-Jihad, which within 2022 was recognized as a terrorist organization by the United States. It has ties to Al-Qaeda. And they found him, I guess it was the U.S. Customs and Border Police had records of 14 shipments, international shipments, delivered to him at his house, at his home, of military gear, military equipment. We're talking about materials that are used in making bombs. He was receiving guidance through the internet on how to make the bomb. There was indication that he was going to travel overseas to engage in terrorist activity. He was there was information about how to construct tactical equipment, wiring materials, how to make remote detonators. Chemicals were removed from the home as well. They found these items located in 2 places in the city, and when they got enough information, enough evidence to strike, the SWAT team came out on Friday, arrested him without incident. The FBI was involved. You can actually see on TV the numerous boxes being taken out of his home, and according to the Philadelphia District Attorney, Larry Krasner, he's going to be right now. He's a minor, so his name has not been revealed, but he's being charged with weapons of mass destruction, arson, recklessly engaging in with another person, and other crimes as well. Now, they did leave the door open for him to be charged as an adult, but the decision about that hasn't been made yet. But it is interesting.
He's 17 years old, so my bet is the government will push for the 18 for that 1 year difference. They will press for the adult charges.
Yeah, they do mention.
I don't think they can charge him with all these crimes unless he is an adult. To be honest.
I don't know. Maybe that's why they're doing it. But it seems right now to be still in the jurisdiction of Philadelphia. I don't think he's being charged with these crimes, but it's being charged by the Philadelphia district attorneys. It hasn't, and so I guess we'll wait to hear whether he's to be charged with federal crimes as well. So and they have some time to do that.
But he didn't succeed. So what are they going to go in court for? For a suspicion that he would do? I mean, he didn't create it.
Well, it's more than a suspicion because they went into his house. Yeah, they have evidence of his communication with a known terrorist group, by the way, which was declared a terrorist group under Biden, believe it or not. That was a big number. This group was declared a terrorist group under Biden.
Right, just last year.
Biden founded that group. That's what you mean?
No, him personally.
No, he his State Department and which it's usually the State Department,
Department of Justice.
Yeah, DOJ declares somebody a terrorist entity. So that's how it gets done, and then the Treasury Department and everybody else has to monitor certain things to make sure they're not receiving financial support and other things. And they found communications between this
The weird thing
the amount of stuff he has.
how do they get financed? That's the weird part. I do understand it
well-
could be like cash, but really,
Oh,
even cash you can trace it. So why don't they
Yes.
follow the money? Where
Well,
did
that's
the
a good-
money come from? How
Well,
did
that's
they
a good
come
question.
from? Why don't
So
they
there
follow
is
the
a
money?
way that
Right. So that's a follow-up
there is a way
question.
to do
but
that.
yeah.
Len is probably the best to explain that.
Yeah,
Can you
well,
answer
for
that?
example, Len is from IRS. What I understand, I'm from Greece, and I know about
Mhm.
UK. Yeah, what I know about IRS when you speak is like from the economic, from the
It's the
money
federal tax
tax.
guys over
Yeah,
here.
that's what I mean. The tax and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, then,
So
here's the other thing. He's a 17-year-old kid. Where did he get the money to pay for it? No.
yeah, that's what I mean.
It's
Where did he get
it's
the
coming
money
from
from?
somewhere. It's coming from
Yeah.
somewhere. Has he paid for it? Well, the other part of it could be. I mean, it's possible. I guess it's possible that
Well,
this organization is so hip on unhappy that he's doing this, and maybe he's sending it to him for free. And we don't know. All this has to be fleshed out.
so this gets even bigger because the initial story didn't reveal the name, and I was curious, and I kind of hinted at this: is this kid a refugee? Is he a second generation, third generation? I know pretty much where we're going with this, but is he a convert? And the answer is no, because his father, we know who his father is, and he's not a convert. But so I understand he's the son of prominent Philadelphia attorney Kawi Abdul Rahman, who recently lost a campaign to be a common pleas court judge in Pennsylvania.
Right.
What can you
His
tell
son?
us about this gentleman who lost a campaign? Now this gets really interesting.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about this? Or are we going to
So when
about him and his reaction to his son's arrest?
So when he was first arrested, first he was arrested at his house. He didn't. He kind of sort of. He did not admit that the boy was his son. He didn't admit that he was a father. All they said that he was living. They just said he was living at this house, and it's very clear. Obviously, is that it belongs to Mr.
A
Abdul Rahman's
17-year-old
house.
just lives in your house and you don't know what he's doing?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
what the heck?
Well, those are all very good questions. I mean, those are the questions that come to my mind. First, he refused to admit that that the boy was his son. But when it became clear there was no way of getting around it, there's an article that came out the other day, and he started playing the victim card, and he said things like he started saying that he's shocked and devastated by the raid of that he's shocked by the raid of his house, not by his son's actions or his behavior. He says, I didn't see it. He says, I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming at all. And he said, and then he says, I go to court because I want. He's an attorney. And he said, I go to court because I want people to know that Muslims are out there doing things for the community.
Yes, to
And
bomb it around. We know.
this is what he says. So, and he says, you can't. You don't know how do I talk to my children about this? Because he has other children. You can't explain it. And and here I am, a father. Your father was supposed to protect, and there's not this thing I can do. Notice what he doesn't say anything about. Doesn't apologize to the community. Doesn't apologize to the FBI. He doesn't apologize to the city of Philadelphia. And saying I'm sorry for my son's actions and behaviors. I want to get down to the bottom of this. This is something that's I'm ashamed of him. Doesn't say anything about that.
And he doesn't say about his family, that his family is devastated, that they found out that this child of his is working with known terrorists and stuff like that.
He's devastated.
Of what you said, he only cares about the seat that he has in the community. That's it.
Well, there's another element here.
He only cares about the fact that he was raided. He knows that it was happening to him. Not that it was not what his son was doing could have had devastating effects on areas of Philadelphia. And there were some. They don't say where it was, but they do say that there were some areas in Philadelphia that were targeted, but they don't say what those areas are. So So he says here, he does things for the community. Oh, then he says, I'm an American like everyone else. Well, not everyone else. Not everyone else has 14 shipments of international weaponry come to their house.
Paul,
Not everybody turns a blind eye. Not everybody turns a blind eye to these weapons. Not everybody, just allows it to happen. And not everybody has. And where's the money coming from? Oh, and by the way, the guns that were taken from his house were registered in this man's in his name. So how do you get around all that?
In his father's name?
In the father's name, yes.
How did he do that?
The weapons, well, we don't know yet. It's all coming. This is all. These are just the facts that are coming. If
the father didn't help, how did that happen? If the father didn't help, then how did that happen? I mean, without the consent
Len is
of the
being
adult.
kind because, and I say he's being kind. Again, we'll look at this. 17-year-olds, I will say, are impressionable still, but we do know that the father has ethical issues, and I'm just going to share this screen here.
I was going to get into that. So he says here, he says here that he wants to. He says I want to show that Muslims are out there doing things for the community. So what I found was in 2020, a review panel of the disciplinary board of the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania ordered that he be subject to a public reprimand. Talking about Mr. Abdul Rahman. He had accepted a retainer from a client, but did not maintain any required professional liability insurance, failed to communicate with his client, made misrepresentations, failed to perform essential duties on behalf of his client. And there's also an indication there that he has a history of discipline. In 2019, he received an informal admonishment for misconduct in another client matter. He violated numerous rules of professional conduct, failed to return phone calls, texts, failed to advise his client of court proceedings. He took a retainer for his fee, which he can do, but he can't really accept it before you actually earn the funds. And again, he fails to maintain proper insurance. And he still fails. There's even notation in the record that he still fails to maintain proper insurance, even though he has clients. It could be subject to malpractice.
And he has to, by law, inform them if he's not insured, and he has not done that either.
Right.
And this is just so his father has serious ethical issues, and he's choosing not to follow the law, and that's one thing. But now he's choosing not to follow the law, and now he's. The way he's speaking about his son,
it just shows that
he doesn't care about our laws.
No, it's just what we get. Yeah, exactly. There's all these laws that he needs to follow, and you think that an attorney would follow the laws, and he seems more upset about his son, about what the FBI is that they raided him, that they arrested him. Of course, he's a father; he cares about his son. But what does that tell you about? The state of affairs in his household. What does it tell you about how he thinks about how he's about the rest of the city and that they could have been victims of a terrorist act. So
I look at this and I like this is just people need to understand that this is just seriously problematic.
This is not the first time that. This is the first time that things like this have happened. Remember, a few years ago, there was a Muslim man who shot point blank at a police officer at midnight, and he was arrested and clearly stated that I did this because of ISIS. ISIS told me to do it. I'm not ashamed. His attorney wanted him to plead insanity. He said, "I'm not insane. I'm on my right mind. I knew exactly what I was doing." So now he's in jail. He's probably in jail for life.
What jail? They should be buried.
I think in Texas.
Right under jail.
So in the United States, the one thing I on Christ's salvation, I would like all of these charges to be considered. I don't like the rule for that allows for someone to be charged with terrorism. I don't care what country it is. I think it's I think it was made to allow for attacks. My answer to this is to all of those people who are charged with terrorism should be charged with treason. Period. They should be charged with treason.
Exactly.
What do we do here? And even in the States, what do we do with people who are convicted of terrorism?
You just
Done.
feed them.
okay.
Yes, but right now
you have to go through the. You have to be proven guilty. You have to be proven guilty, and then we execute you.
He can be death penalty or life imprisonment, and
there's no life imprisonment for treason. It's just execution. That's the penalty. They haven't changed it yet.
They should be
They've
charged
proposed
as
several changes for. They have attempted several times to add life imprisonment to it, but they have not done that yet. So there has been several attempts, and they have all been by, believe it or not, Democrats.
Oh my goodness.
And that's within the past 15 years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
I think it's about 10 or 15 years that it's been attempted. I can't get the exact number of years right now, but I know it started under Clinton, that when they started to propose those. So let me get back. I have a couple more questions here for you, Len.
Okay.
We're going there, and I just got to get to the right question here. Sorry.
Move it up there.
From a legal standpoint, how are the FBI and the Philadelphia DA's office, District Attorney's office, this is the guy who would do the prosecuting, handling this matter? What's your view on how this is being handled? Now, I know I kind of said my opinion, but
yeah, we kind of touched on this briefly, and of course, the final analysis, the final charges haven't been spelled out yet. It seems to me, just from what I'm reading, that the Philadelphia District Attorney is taking control of the case, which means that it becomes a Philadelphia matter, or a state matter, and not a federal matter. Now, if it was a federal matter, first of all, federal terrorism is a federal crime.
How is it not a federal crime?
Well, that's right. It should be a federal crime because if it's a terrorist charge, if he's getting shipments from overseas, it should be a federal crime.
Exactly.
And the Fed should take over it, and he should be charged with federal crimes, which means he could be
charged with treason.
With terrorism. Well, not about treason, but he can be charged with terrorism. And the penalties are very serious. Could be life imprisonment or it could be death. Now, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the charges would probably be a lot more lenient. And so my guess is, we don't know how exactly this is going to play out. You think the federal has like 5 years to make those federal charges. So there's some time that the statute doesn't end for another 5 years. So there is some time for the federals to make those charges. And this is just my opinion. No, this man is an attorney. He probably knows Larry Krasner very well. Larry Krasner, by the way, is a very left of center person, very liberal. He likes to release people from jail if he could. And this is my opinion here, that he's going to try to do. He has no choice but to arrest him and to to charge him. But my guess is he's going to probably try to make it as light as possible for him. That's just my guess. Even though I'm not sure what that means, but I saw when I watched him on TV when he does his press conference. I don't know about you, but I just noticed his body language is he seemed to be very uncomfortable having to make the charges, touching his hands, touching his face, touching his eyes. It just like he's uncomfortable making the charge. So I don't know how it's going to play out in the end, but it seems like right now he does say that he may want to charge him as an adult. So that probably would be a good thing.
Well, he's 17.
He's
17. What role does
he
play for 1 year?
So if the Philadelphia DA says that they're going to charge him as an adult, that allows, I believe that would allow all of a sudden the federal charges to be placed.
Yeah, I would think so. So maybe he is going to go in that direction. I hope he does. I hope he goes in that direction.
But Len, you see what I still don't understand. How is it the weapons that came, as you say, overseas? I don't know the whole story. I hear it from you.
the
I heard it
weapons
from Paul.
okay, so the
The
weapons that
weapons
we're
are
talking
registered
about,
to the father's
well,
name
yeah.
without the
Well, you
father's
can in the
consent.
United States you can have all sorts of guns. You can
Right.
have a ton, and the kid had access to guns, is what had access, and most of these weapons are registered
in the father's name.
family members' names. Yes, and
Right.
father's name. So they're legal guns. They're just dad's guns. So we
Okay.
can have. I mean, there's
So
no
we have-
limit to the amount of
Right.
guns we can own.
So he says dad gun. His dad has guns, and he had this 17-year-old kid who is being charged with terroristic actions, who's buying or having shipments to his house where he can make bombs. So here he has the ability to make bombs. He has all the ingredients to do so. Plus, he's in a house where he has guns. So all these things being tied together, you wonder whether if there is any conspiracy between the father and the son. And I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it came out that way. We just don't know. Was his father know about this
The part
stuff?
that makes it difficult for me is, again, the jihadis that we're talking about are based in Syria, where Arabic would be their native tongue. I'm not saying that they don't know English, but I
Right.
think there's an element. I'm curious to know if the father knows Arabic and has taught it to his son, which would explain what I would see as an essential element to really causing some difficulty here. I mean, this would be that. That's where I'm looking at that. I would be interested, in finding out if at some point, if the child knows Arabic, and he's not really, I keep saying child, but you're 17 years old.
17-year-old.
You've made a choice to build a device that kills numerous people. You've made
Hundreds.
a choice to commit an act of war against your own neighborhood. My friends, that is what we call treason. I'm thinking about protecting my own children at this point. I wouldn't be comfortable living next door. That's me. But
well, treason.
if this kid is allowed to go home, I definitely wouldn't be.
So treason isn't that acts against the government, against America, right now?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if this is an act
If
against
someone acts
America
against the Americans,
or terrorism.
well, if someone is acting against the Americans,
yes,
well,
it is against
yeah,
the American
treason.
people.
Right.
Yes.
It's the American
Because
people. Now you're not overthrowing the
what we understand from the
government.
Constitution, it starts with the people. It doesn't start with the government.
Yes.
Well,
and
right,
that's unfortunately the Democrats don't know that these days. But yes, you are 100% right.
Yeah, but if someone goes against with the people, that means he goes against the government. He goes against the Constitution. That means it's treason. That's how they should charge him.
Well, not everything is treason. I think treason is against the actual government. We want to overtake the government, like a coup.
That would be a coup. Would be what we would define as seditious conspiracy.
Yes,
and that's a slightly lesser charge than treason. Treason is against the It's not just against the government; it's against the people of the United States. So it endangers the people of the United States. That's why I say this charge of treason is more important, and it needs to be the charge of terrorism needs to be disappeared. And we just no longer charge people with terrorism. We just charge them with treason, and that would make, if we did this across the world, that we might make martyrs out of them, but there might be less chance of them to recreate. Is my thought process.
I didn't see any talk about treason. I just saw talk about terrorists.
No, they won't do it. They won't do it. Not unless we're in an active war, and because of George W. Bush, they're not allowed to say that.
In fact, they say that he is, ties with terroristic organizations. Right now, they're charging with criminal activity. So they haven't really charged him with terrorism. They're just charging with criminal activity, but they have all these ties to a terrorist organization. So there's enough there. There's enough proximity there. There's enough nexus there to make it stick.
Oh,
As
and,
far
At
as
the
the
end,
yeah,
terrorism.
at the end, he could say,
have the
"Oh, I
documents.
didn't know what I was doing. I was too young."
He can't say
No.
that because what they've revealed, the government has revealed that they have somehow, again, when you talk or communicate, regardless of if it's on the internet or what, outside your country, whatever country you live in, your government can easily trace whatever communication form that you're using. And that should be known. I mean, if you don't know that at this day and age, you're either very young or very foolish. It's a simple task that the government can do. You push a button, and they do what's called keyword searches. They do listen for certain key things. I mean, they don't want to listen to everybody's conversation, but they do listen. They do have a way to record it all. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he was thinking about, because he had ISIS banners on his WhatsApp profile. So I don't think he was thinking very hard.
I think he wanted everybody to know who he identified with.
Well,
and he wanted to be
and
seen
now we
as
all do.
And he wanted to be seen as a threat. At 17 years old, I'm questioning whether it's rebellion or if it's joining daddy in what he really believes.
It's hard to figure him out yet. We don't know enough about him yet. And we just need to see where he's coming from. Where did this come from? Where did this all come from? Why is he doing this?
We have to watch and see what happens. Len and I actually worked together a little ways back. He got me interested in helping file a referral to the IRS, which Len's organization, charging Georgetown University with violating its 501c3 tax exempt status. Now, I'm going to have Len explain a little bit more what that means in a minute, but the purpose was we were saying that the educational institution, in regard to the Bridge Initiative at Georgetown University, was making baseless accusations against individuals and organizations for being Islamophobic, this made-up word, when Islam political activist Muslims are rightly exposed for perverting that which is true. So, do you know if the IRS has taken any action regarding that?
Yeah, so we worked on that about, I think, 3 years ago. We worked very hard about showing all the proof, how the Bridge Initiative was violating their 501c3 status as an educational organization. Now, when you're an educational organization, you have to show the facts. You have to give both points of views. You can't just lay things out and be indoctrinating your readers. So we went through all this. There must have been at that point, I'm just taking a guess, maybe 50 individuals, organizations that were listed in the Bridge Initiative, and we went through, not all of them. We picked out the most egregious ones where they said, "Oh, obviously this is." I mean, they picked anybody who said anything negative towards Islam or Muslims were deemed to be Islamophobic, without even showing both sides of the issue. So we put that together. We worked very hard on that. We put an 80-page report together and referred it to we made a referral to the IRS to show that they're violating their code, and with specific examples. And we got a message back from IRS saying that they acknowledged the receipt of the referral. And that's the last that anyone has heard of it. That's the last. And you think, so at the beginning, I was thinking, well, IRS is busy. They're understaffed. It'll take a while for them to get to it, maybe a year. But it's more than a year. And so now I'm thinking one of two things. Well, I no longer think that I haven't gotten to it yet. I know I did think that at some point. Now I don't think that anymore. So, so that means that they've gotten to it and dismissed it, or didn't even bother working it, or decided for some reason, decided wrongly that they were not in violation, or they didn't want to deal with it. Maybe they just don't want to deal with taking Georgetown to task. At least there was maybe they were just,
mean,
maybe
they
they were just,
they could set a
they were
standard
just,
if they did this.
maybe they were just told, just to sweep it under the rug. We don't want to deal with it. And of course, then how would anybody know? Now, of course, you can't. IRS cannot disclose um, their tax orders to anybody. It's your private. It's your personal issues with the IRS. Nobody can. IRS cannot do that. But so if we go and ask the IRS, where are you with this case? They say, well, we can't tell you that because we have disclosure rules. Except that the Bridge Initiative is a website, so anybody can see it. It's for the world. The whole world can see it.
And it's paid for and sponsored by Georgetown
By
University.
Georgetown. So not only does it still exist, but I would say the number of individuals and organizations that they cite have quadrupled.
Yes.
There's more now than there were when we were working on it, which tells you that the IRS has done nothing.
What we did was we took each individual article. I mean, we didn't even do them all. We couldn't do them all. And if we had, this is the thing, we went through each of the articles that we addressed that were written on individuals. I think it was mostly individuals we talked about.
Organizations.
We found a vast number of purposeful misinformation, purposeful lies, purposeful omissions of facts. And these are done intentionally for the whole purpose of creating propaganda. And now that makes them a propaganda institution, and that is not allowed to be financed according to the IRS, correct?
That's correct. It's not. You're not supposed to educate. You're supposed to open. You're supposed to give diversity of opinions, different points of view. You have to show the difference of points of views, and let the person who's with the student decide for themselves. What the bottom line. To form their own conclusions. Right.
Now, I'm just curious, Christ of Salvation, if in Greece they have an allowance, if your country has something similar with your finance guys for state taxes, or for government taxes, if they're able to look into your local colleges and see if they're a propaganda institution and they're supporting a faith versus another in that respect, maybe that would help. Because at least here we know. I mean, I've documented my first and my second book how, pretty much I didn't do it in the last book, but how the colleges were the first place they went. And this is, they went into the colleges here. Why? Because they did that successfully in Egypt, and they used it in every single country they have gone into since. They go to the colleges first, and then they expand from there. And that is, yes.
In Greece, universities, because we don't have the same structure as you, we don't have colleges. We have, let's say, from
universities?
6 to 12. From 6 to 12 is like for minors. Then we have gymnasium from 13 until 15, 3 years, 13, 14, 15. And then we have 16, 17, and 18. It's lyceum, okay, like lyceum or something like that. But this is like the standard that you have to finish. And then if you want, you can go to university or to a private, how to say it, you could call it college or something like that, but it could be private education. That doesn't mean you cannot start from private education, but it's very expensive. That's why all the children have gone through public education, which means they are all politicized. All of them. I haven't encountered one teacher that was not either socialist or communist. I haven't encountered. Because I didn't go to the university.
Yeah, they're indoctrinating.
I already knew because of this education. I already knew what I would find in the university, and I didn't want to go to the university because of that. My cousin, who has very good mathematical brain, They didn't give him his degree, mathematics degree, because he didn't want to go along with one of the political parties that are in the university. They are already politicized. So they are already brainwashed in that type of form. So i- for me, Greece is already dead because their children are dying because of politics.
Wow.
If they stop bringing politics into the school and they let the children to when they grow up
Just learn.
just learn. Well, I would say the most important thing to learn for any human is how to calculate 1 plus 1, 2 plus 2. This is one of the most important. How to read. These are the two most important. The third most important is history, the history of the land that they live in. These three, I believe, is the most important parts of any child that grows up. Everything else, physics, chemistry, biology, all of that, I would say it's non-important because you're not going to do physics when you're going to work. You're not going to do chemistry when you're going to work or biology. But in Greece, we are taught those things for no reason, you know? Not only
Yeah.
that, the teachers that are teaching those things, they're communists. I mean, there is, for example, a law that the government wants to pass and they don't agree with that. They will not come to school and they will go to protest.
Oh,
So
oh, that
children
can't happen
at
here.
the age from 13 until 18, because younger they don't do it, to younger ages they don't do it. But from 13 to 18, they lose hours or maybe days of how to say it, of school.
Schooling?
But yeah, because of that, just because of
Yeah.
that, because most of the teachers, like 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10, I would say all of them are politicized, communists. They are all communists.
I would
It's
say
like
that the
mind blowing.
percentage isn't. Yeah, percentage here, which is I'm retired educator, and I would say the percentage is a little different, not much. And I say that because where I found most of the conservatives is usually social studies teachers. And that's what people sit there and look at me like, what are you talking about? I says the issue is most people who are who are teaching US history tend to be conservatives. Tend to be. Okay, you might be teaching world history, you might be teaching something else, but in general, social studies teachers are supposed in the United States are supposed to know the Constitution. And for that reason alone, many of them, if not most, are conservatives. However, you get a lot of you do get a lot of libs in there too. And
You call them
it's
libs, I call them communists.
commies.
Okay.
And you know what? I don't think there's a difference these days.
Well, it is.
The funny thing is
Liberal
in the
means
United States,
freedom. Liberalism
yes,
means freedom.
liberal is something we used to in this country, we used to highly respect and used to proudly call each of us,
Yes,
both Democrat and Republican. We used to be proud of our liberalism.
we had people
And
that we
we're
were
not
calling
talking
them.
about, and all we're talking about then was freedom. We
You
believed in
see, we
freedom.
had
That's all it was
people that
about.
we were calling them φιλελεύθεροι, which means friends of freedom. Φιλελεύθερος, friends of freedom. Like you have Philadelphia, friend of a friend.
Yes.
You know, friend of a brother.
Philadelphia is
Friend of a
Philadelphia.
brother.
brotherly
Friend.
love.
Brotherly love.
No.
Brotherly
Friend of
love.
a friend, brother. That's what it means. Philos, adelphos. Friend and brother. It's much more strong bond when you have with a brother, which is also your best friend. That's what it is. Friend, brother.
Well, a lot
Because
of
it's a Greek word. It's a Greek word. Philadelphia, it's a
Yeah.
Greek word.
wow.
So when you say philadelpheros, it's friend of freedom or freedom's friend, you know, that you love friends so much. You love the freedom so much, or you like freedom. You are friend with the freedom. You have it close.
Well, I don't
So
think the Islamists in Philadelphia are crazy about the freedoms in, in this country.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so we had those guys, Philadelpheros, but the thing is that they are not they are not conservatives. They are either in the center or leaning to the left as well. I mean, it's strange. The Greek country is strange, really. They want to be like free and stuff like that, but they don't want to get out of what the country owns, you know. And the country
Yeah.
owned electricity, phone,
No, that sounds like
water,
socialism.
yes, all the transport,
Hmm.
except taxis, taxi driving. That's what I mean,
Taxes.
taxis. Yeah.
There's a taxes.
Yeah, it's I speak strangely, so I don't
Yeah.
really. So the
Yeah.
thing is that it is like a socialist country, and it starts slowly to become a little bit more free. But
Mhm.
it's really hard to get this socialistic environment out of humans. It's really difficult. It's really difficult. I know I bored you
I'm
right now. Sorry.
I'm waiting to see which country falls in Europe first to Islam. There's been discussions
That will be
here.
Greece.
The belief was that Denmark would fall first. Then the belief was France would fall first, Sweden,
No,
and UK
Greece.
is in there,
Mhm.
and then I've heard Greece.
Greece will fall first. But definitely
I think
Greece
you're the
will
one
fall
who told
first.
me Greece.
Yes,
Yeah.
because the politics are really the politicians love money so much as Muslims love it.
Mhm.
That's how much they
Right.
love. They love their place in the society. They love the chair that they have
Mhm.
as much as Muslims love it. I believe that's why they allow so many illegals to come, so that at the end they give them the how do you call it? Uh, how to say it? The right to vote,
From the
and then they
benefits.
will start changing the religious type
Mm.
of Greece. But it will take time. It won't be from one day to another. It might take 20, 20, maybe 10, 20 years, or maybe 30 years. But I think that will be the first country that will become Islamic.
Okay.
And it's
I
very
want to
close to
ask one.
Turkey. It's very close to
Nepal.
Afghanistan and stuff like that. So that they will pour even more people from Greece. Because if you start with Greece, then everything else is
It'll
like
be like a
open border.
domino effect.
Yeah, it's like
It'll be a
everybody
domino
will
effect.
go to, first of all, in Balkan countries like Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, anywhere you want to go, and from there, Germany, Austria, anywhere you want to go.
Yeah, it'll be a horrible effect.
Yeah.
Glenn, I don't want to let you go without asking you two questions. And I want to tell you the second question first, which I would like you to answer last. Please don't leave without telling people where to pick up your books.
Absolutely.
And anything and how to support you. But as I'm thinking about this, one of the questions I never sent you and I always ask somebody is, do you see anything that people who have freedom anything that can be done to prevent some of what we're seeing? Let's take a look at this child. I mean, my personal thought is, if daddy didn't want this to happen, he has a 17-year-old child who's living in his residence.
Right.
And my solution is this. You get a hold of internet monitoring software and you monitor your children's activities. If the fact that this man is a lawyer and hasn't thought about that, I'm kind of concerned. And I mean, yeah.
And you wonder how well he knows his children. You think he should know them better than he does.
I believe
There's
that guy
there's a
was
lot
even.
of there's a lot of everything is too free. It's free. There's a lot of too much freedom that children have these days, and allowances, and parents are not looking after their children well enough. I think it all starts at home. It all starts at home. Of course, you have to have a good sense of morals and ethics in your home in order to
that's corrupted by Islam by
Yes,
itself.
but the,
and give that
the
to
father
to
is
your
a
children.
Muslim. The
There's
father
too
is
much
a
leniency.
Muslim.
There's just too much leniency. Too much leniency.
Yes.
And it's not just goes. It's first, it starts in the home. There's too much leniency in the home, and then it opens up to the schools. There's too much leniency in the schools because they're just opening up to all these other ideas, and people think, well, we have to be open up to the ideas, or so we're being discriminated against those who have ideas different than ours. And so they're opening up, and these groups, Islamists, are taking advantage of the leniencies and the freedoms that we have, and they're creating all these inroads, and we're allowing it to happen. We're allowing it to happen. We have to be strong enough and have to be courageous enough. We have to be courageous enough to stop it. In fact, there was an article in Commentary magazine about wokeism and how it's been infecting all aspects of life, schools, universities, government, hospitals, and we're allowing it to happen.
Media.
And the only thing that could stop it, media, is courage. We have to have the courage to stop it. We have to have the courage to say no, to put our foot down and say we're not going to let this happen anymore. We're going to stop wokeism. We're going to stop. We're not going to allow. For example, there's the thing in Indianapolis, allowing the call to prayer. Why are we letting that happen? It's a minority. It's a minority. Why are we letting the minority rule the majority? Just letting it happen. And we don't have the foresight. We don't have the strength for some reason to stop it. I don't know why. We just don't have that mindset. And I don't see that. I don't see it. In schools too. In the schools too. I don't see the reverse of that trend. At least I don't see it right now. People like you and I, and we see it. We know what has to happen. But a very small minority, even though our minority of the people who see what has to happen, even though we represent the majority, we are the majority. There's only a very small minority of this majority that really sees it as a problem or has the guts to do anything about it. And so that's unfortunate. So to answer your first question, you had the screen up there a second ago on about the Amazon website.
Yeah, I'll pull it back up.
You pull that up. So those of you who are interested in getting a copy of my book, it is available on Amazon. Which I guess you'll see in a minute. The paperback is available on Amazon. It's also available on Kindle. Okay, it's also available on Kindle, and you can get the Kindle version on Amazon as well. Or if you are interested in a personal autographed copy from me personally, you can email me at lengetz3@gmail.com. That's LENGETZ, the number 3. lengetz3@gmail.com. Email me, let me know that you like a autographed copy directly from me, and I will let you know, and I'll let you know how you can get one. So if you haven't read my book, it's lots of, like you can see here, lots of 5 stars on Amazon, and it's been greatly reviewed. And I'm very excited about the fact that it's been nominated for the 2023 Killer Nashville Silver Falcon Award for Mystery, the best mystery books published in 2022. There's I think there's 10 other finalists in that category. So competition is stiff, but the fact that it's made this far, I'm very, very happy that that's made this far. It's my first novel.
And I will say again, the ending in this book.
Don't say the ending. No.
It is a surprise. You won't be ready for this. Yes.
Paul, you are showing us your address, man.
Hmm?
You are showing us your address. You are showing us your address.
Your other?
Yes.
I know what he's saying. No, I think he's saying something else.
Oh, okay.
No.
Right.
You are showing us your address here on the right. Look at it. You are showing us your address, Paul. Don't do that.
Your address? Oh.
Your address, your home address. Rochester, 14617.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh.
I'm not too worried. All right. Okay. I'll just cut it out. I'm not worried.
Okay.
The one thing I can laugh about, that's not something that would bother me at this point.
Okay, but I'm saying it because it's
I haven't been threatened
there are
yet.
people.
All right.
I look at this as I'm unafraid at this point, and I will stay fearless because I serve the living God, and that is a pretty cool thing. God gives us armor for our front and he gets our back. That is one of the coolest things. I'm going to recommend everybody buy Len's book.
Thank you.
And if you can, find out, if you find a competition that his book could be entered in for fictions, contact Len. Let him, enter it. I couldn't find I get people who won't review my book because it is nonfiction. So I'm always looking for reviews. If you buy Len's book, please give it a review. Be honest. That's all he's ever asking for is an honest review. The same thing. That's all I ask for. Put it out, share it. That's the best way to support us in what we do individually. Len's an excellent writer. And I have to say, you want to take a look not only at that fiction, but look at the other work he's done. You will be surprised. The work that we did on Georgetown University, I posted it. If you go to LinkedIn.com, you look up me, Paul Sutliff, you can find on my profile, my resume page, the work that we did. Now I've shared that out. I sent that work to several people who are connections of mine that went to Georgetown University back then. And I'll tell you, the surprise, you should see we had some interesting responses like, whoa, I didn't know this was going on.
Wow.
My goal was to get them to financially influence the university. We'll see what happens. Something needs to be done. I look at it this way. We each have a responsibility. And my father's most important statement, you are responsible for what you know. Use that stuff that you know. Stand up, don't be afraid, and do what's right. God bless everybody. Thank you.
God bless everybody.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. You well.